Can you hear me? Hi, it's me.
Just as a heads up, this video will not be showing any jump scares or disturbing imagery, so there's no need to worry about that. That said, the content of this character and their game might still be a little unsettling for some people. There will also be some potential spoilers, so overall, viewer discretion is advised. Doki Doki Literature Club, the game that destroyed so many people psychologically. Seriously, you don't jump into this one and come out unscathed. It does stuff to you. But how, the ignorant might be asking? It just looks like a cute, somewhat generic dating sim starring anime high school girls that are all apparently 18. It's not until you get past the game's first weekend when you're suddenly thrusted into the game's psychological horror elements, mainly orchestrated by the Literature Club's leader and the main focus of today's topic, Monika. On the surface level, she seems to be like any other high school girl, but it's not long until you find out that she, as well as the world that she resides in, hold a dark secret. It appears to be some kind of virtual simulator made into a dating sim game, and Monika herself is this simulator's main monitor kernel access system, given all the necessary elevated permissions to do with the world as she so wishes. And after discovering her own true nature and the nature of her world as a whole, she becomes desperate and does anything she can to connect with you, the player, who she's fallen madly in love with. But now Monika won't need to worry about being trapped in her own world, cause today, she'll be trapped in a whole different, much more violent game world. I'm of course talking about the world of Super Smash Bros. So getting right into things, despite her appearance, Monika would be an above-average mid-weight class character. Having all that extra data does make her file size a little bigger after all. She would also have access to a grand total of 4 jumps. Why? Because she says so. Though she wouldn't have any additional movement options. Isn't it amazing how a writer can so deliberately take advantage of your own lack of imagination to completely throw you for a loop? This line will be the premise for the theming of Monika's entire moveset. Doki Doki Literature Club, when played blind, is designed to lure you into a false sense of security with its initial cutesy and one-note presentation. But hiding under it all is something much darker and much more complex. So as such, all of Monika's attacks, quote-unquote, will all just have her doing normal high schooler things, so it doesn't really look like she's fighting. So if you were expecting this moveset to have horrific or disturbing imagery, then sorry, but you've come to the wrong place. Though, if any of those attacks connect with a foe, Monika's hidden tendency to mess with the game's coding will kick in, causing a large variety of hacks or glitches that can lead to opponents being afflicted with many different types of status effects. The attacks themselves are generally very weak, having the worst damage output of the roster, so the best way to win matches with Monika is by messing with your opponents psychologically, taking advantage of the status effects that she can place onto them, and force them to think twice about their actions, giving Monika the edge. And for the first of these attacks, starting with her jab, she'll only have a rapid jab that simply has her pull out a notebook and starts writing some notes into it. What is she taking notes of? Well, I don't know, maybe some ideas for poems, perhaps she's studying for that math test that she has next Tuesday, or maybe she's probably writing different kinds of code. Cause if you're too close in front of her while she writes those notes, you get caught by an invisible glitchy mess, which slowly racks up damage while also applying steady coats of black ink from her pen. This ink works just like the Inkling's ink, causing the inked up foe to take extra damage from attacks while covered in that ink up until the ink evaporates. You think I said ink enough times in that sentence? I think I did. So how's about instead of writing down with ink, for her dash attack, she'll read the ink instead. Monika can have her face in a book, totally focused on whatever it is she's reading while also power walking forwards, not really paying attention to where she's walking. Must be a good book. While she's reading, her book acts as a shield, making her completely immune to all attacks from the front, nullifying anything that might come at her from that direction, but she is still susceptible to being grabbed out of her reading. For her side tilt, she pulls out a knife and starts cutting some paper streamers, getting ready for the up-and-coming school festival. Careful though, knives are dangerous, and if you happen to be in front of her while she's using it, it's all your fault. You also may or may not start taking constant damage over time for a little bit, effectively getting poisoned. Like I said, knives are dangerous if you aren't careful. For her up tilt, she stops writing in her notebook and starts pondering to herself, trying to think about what to write next. When this happens, a thought bubble appears over her head. But I guess Monika has a bad habit of thinking out loud, cause you get hurt if you touch the thought bubble. And because Monika is so much more big brain than you are, her thoughts might be a little too complicated for you to understand, which causes your horizontal controls to be reversed for a few seconds. And for her down tilt, she finally figures out what it is she wants to write, but decides to write it into her notebook while laying on her stomach. This is a move though that can leave Monika a bit vulnerable, as the hitbox of this attack is only active for a short time, leading to a bit of end lag. But since taking notes is pretty boring, it also has a very small chance to put opponents to sleep if it hits them. Now for Monika's smash attacks. For all three of them, she'll be visited by her three best friends. She kills her. Oh, I'm sorry, what? For the side smash, the cheerful Sayori appears, but in her clumsy excitement, accidentally bumps into Monika, causing Monika to stumble backwards and Sayori to fall flat on her bum, after which she disappears. Sayori falling over is the attack, and thanks to her nature of not letting things bother her, or so she pretends to have anyway, like water off a duck's back, projectiles will be reflected off of her as she falls. For her up smash, Natsuki appears and they take a selfie together. Monika leans down and Natsuki lifts her phone up to snap a shot. The act of lifting her phone up is the attack, and it has deceptive range, being able to scoop up photobombers from the front. On top of that, this is actually a two-hit attack. The real attack comes from when she lifts her phone into the air, but there is also a makeshift attack when she actually takes the picture. The flash from her phone can actually stun foes in place, as if they were captured in the moment, after which then they'll be launched. The flash covers a decent radius too, so even if your initial attack misses, there's still a good chance that foes who are too close will still be a part of the selfie. And for Monika's down smash, this has Yuri appear. And because she was too focused on something else, she ends up doing the same thing as Sayori and bumps into Monika. However, since Yuri is much larger in stature compared to Sayori, she actually causes Monika to also fall down while she falls over herself, leading both girls to land on their rumps at the same time, turning this into an attack that hits on both sides as a result of both girls falling. On top of that, if a foe is right underneath one of the girls at the moment they hit the ground, then they will be buried by them. For Monika's aerials, her neutral air will have her want to write something down that she doesn't want anyone else seeing, so she scrunches up to do so. This is an early frame shine attack, one that knocks foes away at the moment of activation if they were too close to Monika's personal bubble. For Monika's forward air, she holds a flyer forwards to advertise the literature club. Foes hit by the flyer have a chance of being afflicted by the flower status. For the back air, she turns around to surprise you with a love letter. Aww. Unfortunately, as is her luck, there's a chance that foes who take the letter will give Monika the cold shoulder, as it has a chance to freeze them. The up air will have Monika hang one of her flyers on the wall, quote unquote. Foes in the way of her hanging the flyer up will take damage, of course, but once the flyer is hung, it'll actually remain there for a little while, remaining suspended in the air until a foe runs into it and knocks it down like a jerk. No wonder Monika can't get more members. But as karma would have it, if they do that, then they will take some damage and hit stun. And for her down air, she stumbles a bit and accidentally drops all of her flyers, dealing multi-hitting damage to foes underneath. And these flyers are prone to giving paper cuts, or I suppose in this case, shield cuts, as this move will do quite a bit of shield damage to guarding foes. To get her opponent's attention, she puts her hands on their shoulders and stares them dead in the eyes. And to pummel, she does one of the most painful things of all, lectures the foes. For Monika's throws, they're all kinda weird. For her forward throw, she just starts waving goodbye, and that somehow causes the foe to fly forwards. The back throw has her turn around and start sightseeing, which suddenly causes the foe to fly into that direction, which catches Monika off guard, or so it seems. The up throw is the same thing, only she's searching the sky this time, causing the foe to suddenly be launched upwards. And the down throw has Monika want to start a study session. So she sits on the ground with her notes, and when she does so, this forces the foe to trip in place, sitting down next to her. Foes who trip because of this throw cannot be grabbed out of it, and they're also immune to statuses that would lock them in place. Monika's trying to get better at coding, but she's still not good enough to be setting up any infinites, and thank goodness for that. For Monika's neutral special, this has her use the sole gameplay element in Doki Doki Literature Club. Write a poem. Writing poems will actually be a major crutch for Monika's entire moveset, because the more she writes, the stronger she gets. Activating this special will have a small list of words appear around her, and just like in her game, certain words each are favored by each of her 3 friends, Sayori, Natsuki, and Yuri. Selecting a word does 2 things. It powers up the attacks associated with the girl who favors the word, and it also slightly changes Monika's attributes to match that girl. These power-ups are done in increments, so you have to select a lot of words, thus write longer poems, to really start seeing an effect. However, it's not a move that only powers up Monika. There is a give and take value. Pretend that each girl has a hidden tally. Selecting a word will increase the favored girl's tally by 2, however, that also decreases the other 2 girls by 1. There are caps to these tallies. They can never go below 0, but they can also never go above 40. It's set up like this so that you can't just become overpowered with all 3 girls. You have to pick your own balance. So you can do one of 3 things. Favor one girl entirely and become very strong in their attributes, but then remain very weak with the other 2 girls. You can favor 2 girls and become pretty good with their balanced attributes, but then still be weak with the 1 girl. Or you can find a proper balance that you might desire with all 3 girls, being just decent with all of them. To give an example, let's say you favor Sayori and only choose her words. You can get her tally up to 40, but Natsuki and Yuri will remain at 0. Then if you wanted to start picking Natsuki's words and get her up to 30, that would have reduced Sayori's tally to 25, while Yuri's still remains at 0. Then if you wanted to start adding Yuri's words and get her up to, say, 20, that would have reduced Natsuki's tally to 20 as well, but Sayori's down to 15. If you still don't fully understand, then don't be afraid to meet me after class. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Now as for what each girl does for Monika's attributes, aside from powering up the attacks that they themselves are involved in, Sayori, usually trying to be the moderator who also loves to keep everyone's interests in mind, focuses on balance, adding both power and speed. Natsuki, who's generally quick to respond and is a bit more outgoing, solely focuses on speed, and Yuri, who spends more time on her tasks and refines them to be more effective, focuses entirely on power. So just like with how the tallies work, Sayori adds 1 to both power and speed, Natsuki adds 2 to speed, and Yuri adds 2 to power. So it's overall up to you to decide just what kinds of poems you want to write and which girls you want to impress, because that'll be what determines just how effective Monika can be during her own skirmishes. That's a fun word, skirmishes. Consider that one of my keywords if you ever wanted to impress me. Now moving on to the other 3 special attacks, just like with the smash attacks, they'll each involve one of the other girls. They also correspond to the same based on directional inputs, with each direction following the theme of each girl's preferred writing style. Sayori's words are generally very simple and direct, straight to the point you can say, so that's why she's the side commands. Natsuki, despite her attitude, loves cute and bouncy words, so she's the up commands. And Yuri prefers words with deeper symbolism, or even some that are considered a downer. Therefore, she's the down commands. So getting into those specials, starting with Sayori's side special, this has her appear and run past Monika forwards in excitement. But she's a little too excited and isn't watching where she's going, potentially causing her to run into others as well as trip and fall at the peak of her distance. Sayori, as she does this, behaves like a projectile, one that at first does mostly weak flinching damage. But if you choose a lot of her keywords, she will become stronger and run faster, with maxing her out turning her into a very deadly projectile. Now for Natsuki's up special, this will have her appear while she's carrying a box of her manga collection, but she immediately loses her balance, causing the box to fly in the air, turning the box into a projectile that also splits off into many smaller projectiles as the manga flies out. They are gravity affected and will fall soon after, but they'll usually disappear before they ever hit the ground, unless they're tossed up to elevated platforms. So this is one of those rare non-recovery up specials, but since Monika has 4 jumps, again, because she said she could, it shouldn't be too big a deal. Powering up Natsuki, though, will increase the range and speed that the box and manga fly. And finally, for Yuri's down special, this simply has Yuri spawn on the ground in front of Monika, just sitting there totally absorbed in one of her books, not really paying attention to anything going on around her, turning into a total tripping hazard. In fact, that's exactly what she is. Foes who touch Yuri will immediately trip to the ground, causing poor, insecure Yuri to start apologizing profusely, then vanish. The foes will also take damage from tripping over Yuri as well, since they feel bad for not seeing her there. And powering Yuri up will only cause foes to feel worse if they trip over her, increasing the amount of damage it deals. Yuri will only sit there for a finite amount of time though. She does last for a good while, but she will automatically disappear after a certain amount of time if she sits there for too long without anyone disturbing her. She probably just finished the chapter she was on and decided it was time to go. Now with all of that said, you guys are probably wondering what happens if you try using a smash attack and a special that feature the same girl at the same time. Well, the way I see it, if Monika has the elevated permissions to be able to delete her friends, who's to say that she can't also, I don't know, copy and paste them? Oh, but while on the topic of deleting, for Monika's final smash, I call it Control-Alt-Delete. She drops the facade and goes deep into the Smash Brothers code to see if she can delete her opponent's stocks. Only the single stocks though. Being able to delete entire character files would be a little too broken. Plus, I don't think Sakurai would give her the permissions to be able to do that in the first place. So as such, she'll have a radial final smash that'll affect all foes within her proximity. It deals a ton of damage, but cannot launch foes whatsoever. The only way to get KOs with this final smash is if the opponent's damage goes over 100%. If that happens, that means Monika was successful in deleting their stock, and they just disappear, respawning with a new stock, assuming they had any to spare. Obviously, they won't be KO'd if their damage doesn't reach that threshold, insinuating that Monika messed up in deleting their stock, but they still take that large damage. After all, as Monika herself has shown, having your code messed with still hurts quite a bit. For Monika's colors, her default has her with her usual brown hair and regulated school uniform. Her first alt can be based off of Sayori's casual outfit, giving Monika orange hair and a pink uniform. Her second can come from Natsuki's casual attire, giving Monika pink hair and a white outfit. And as such, her third alt is based off of Yuri's casual outfit, giving Monika purple hair and a beige outfit. For her fourth alt, this is somewhat original, but I am basing it off the colors of Unsettling Glitches, giving her blonde hair and a red uniform. Then here's a black gothic alt, the same that you might see from gothic cliques in high school, but this is mostly referencing Monika's Halloween costume shown in the Halloween promotional art. Her next two alts can both be alternate costumes, with her first just showing Monika in her own casual outfit, and the final showing Monika in her white dress, the same worn in promotional art for Monika's birthday, as well as for Valentine's Day. I should also mention, the other three girls will also have color alts to match Monika's, just to help differentiate them in Monika Dittos. Though they will wear their own casual outfits for Monika's two alts, with them in pure white casuals to match Monika's dress alt. For Monika's stage intro, it just shows a sliding school door, which Monika opens, then closes behind her as she exits the room and enters the stage, after which the door glitches away. For all 3 of Monika's taunts, they each show one of Monika's friends accompanying her. The first can show Sayori appear and exchanges poems with Monika. The second can have Natsuki appear with a tray of cupcakes, so Monika takes one and wolves it down. And the final can have Yuri appear and shyly lend a book to Monika, which Monika gratefully accepts. And finally, for Monika's victory animations, her first can show her huddled with the other 3 girls, gossiping between each other. Then as the camera closes in on them, they all turn to the camera and pose, with Monika doing her iconic leaning pose. Her second can just show her playing the piano, as if she's playing her own victory theme on it. And her final, and by far the creepiest, just shows Monika sitting at a desk, staring straight into your eyes, just like she does at the end of the game when it's just you and her, all alone, together. And as an added bonus, if you sit on this victory screen for a while, she could start chatting with you, striking up some random conversations in hopes of the 2 of you getting to know each other better. And that does it for What If Monika Was in Smash! So, if you enjoyed what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys, you can click the join button either below the video or my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my Discord server as well as channel emotes. You can guarantee that your name appears in my videos, or even get the option of knowing what if character is coming up next a week in advance. I really do appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you want to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!